You're listening to Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com. You've read the stories of the drivers and others involved in the sport that we all love. Now hear their stories firsthand via our all-new podcast to find out how their passion for motorsports has made life worth living. Welcome once again to Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com. As we start our latest edition, we first want to take a minute to send out our thoughts and prayers to everyone that's been affected by both Hurricanes Harvey and Irma. Down below us in the South, Texas and Florida has just been ravaged by those hurricanes. And if you get a chance, please donate or do whatever you can to help those folks. We also want to thank our last guest, 18-year-old superstar street stock driver Amber Lynn. She took a little time out of her very busy schedule to tell us her story and ambitions as an up-and-coming late model driver.
Speaking of late model racing, I am so excited about this edition.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
One of the best late model races in the Southeast is coming in 2 weeks.
Oh!
And I cannot wait.
Who we got? What we doing?
We're heading out to the Valley Star 300 at Martinsville Speedway. Honestly, it's probably the best race of the year if you ask me.
And they got LED lights now.
Yeah, exactly. This year's probably going to be the greatest because we're finally going to have this race under the lights. Like, if it couldn't be any more exciting as it is, you start out with a field of about 40 cars. Honestly, you start out with about 100 drivers trying to qualify for the race. Then you get that field down to 40, which takes a little while, and then ends up in a lot of Toro race cars. And by the time you start the feature, you got about 40 cars starting the feature and end up with about 15 if you're lucky at the end.
Right. And, you know, growing up in South Boston, Martinsville to us was like, you know, the big speedway.
That's right.
So it's going to be real interesting for me to see that race under LED lights to see what it's like. It's going to be like watching it during the day.
That's right. Exactly. This is actually going to be what NASCAR should be. So this is going to be awesome to see, and I can't wait for this year. And this will be my third year heading out to this race, so I just can't wait.
Well, that is the lovely and talented Miss Ellen Richardson. I am Tater, and if I understand correctly, we're going to have Brooks Taylor on the line. Is that right?
That's right. We've got the PR director for Martinsville Speedway joining us to tell us all about this race and why you all should come out and attend this one-of-a-kind race that is like you will never, ever see again.
Well, let's see if we can get Brooks on the line.
Absolutely.
Brooks, good afternoon, man. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, thanks for joining us. Now, I'm a South Boston native, so I know Martinsville extremely well. And I'm excited, number one, before we get to talking about the Valley Star Credit Union 300, about the LED lights you got in.
We are, too. It's really a game changer up here. We're looking forward, actually, to debuting them Thursday night for the test day for the Valley Star Credit Union 300, and then we'll have them on for the show next Saturday night. It's going to be really exciting. We've turned them on a couple of times. We had Leonard Lloyd turn some laps and Peyton Sellers and Matt Bowling, and every one of them said it was the best lighting they've ever seen. So I tend to agree with them. I've been to a lot of racetracks that don't have LED lights. We're the only one, and it's looks better than the daytime.
Nice. Well, tell us a little bit about the history of the Valley Star Credit Union 300.
Well, the late model started running here about 1985. It's something that is obviously very popular in our area. We've got tracks South Boston, Southern National, Motor Mile, Langley, Old Dominion, which is now Dominion Raceway, Hickory. They're all around us, and you know those cars. They can't do well at like a Daytona, but they come out to Martinsville, and you know it gives those drivers a chance to race on the big stage and now under the brightest lights, and it's just really exciting for all of them, and it's exciting for us, and it gives them an opportunity to race on the same track that the Cup guys race on. They're racing for the same grandfather clock trophy, and they're racing for $25,000, which you know you think about these guys on a regular Friday or Saturday night, they may pick up $1,500 for a win. This race pays $1,000 to finish 40th. So now we're going to have 80 cars show up to try to make the race. But you know, if you're 40th, as they say, for a lot of those guys, that's just as big a deal as it is for somebody to win.
So is that the number of cars you're expecting? 80?
We're hoping for more than that, but based on the past couple of years, I think 80 is a very doable number. And if we can get up to 100, that would be incredible.
God knows I've seen you guys get 100 out there before.
We have gotten 100. We've got 100 plus, and we'd love to get back to that. It's been a good year throughout the region, throughout the country for late model stock cars, and I think with the lights, that's going to bring some people out that wouldn't necessarily come. I'll tell you, advanced ticket sales and camping are any indication, we're doing very well. Every bit of our reserve camping is sold out. That includes the backstretch, Champions Overlook, the driver owner lot. All of that's sold out. It's been sold out for weeks.
Wow.
Advanced sales are through the roof. So it's really exciting. We're really pumped for it. And, it's always going to be a good race. But I think turning the lights on, there's something about when the sun goes down that the intensity heats up. And,
Yes.
And we're really expecting that.
I'm renting out space in my driveway at my house in South Boston if anybody feels like they want to park and walk. I mean, I'm just saying.
From South Boston all the way to
Ain't nothing
Martinsville,
wrong.
huh?
I've done it before.
That might be as close as they're going to get with this crowd. No, it's
God, I
gonna
hope
be a
not.
good crowd, but we've got plenty of parking. We've got plenty of grandstands, and we're really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good race. It always is, but just to talk to the drivers and how excited they are for it. I've been out all summer talking to guys, and they're really fired up for it.
So why do you feel that this race has become so prestigious? I mean, obviously this year everybody's really excited because of the lights and it being under the lights and not being on a Sunday but on a Saturday night, which is what a lot of race fans are used to as far as going out to their local short tracks. What has made this race the go-to race of the year?
Well, I think for one, it's a track that only runs late models once a year. So, there's some other tracks that have big races, but the guys that race at those tracks may have an advantage. This sort of levels the playing field. You can be really dominant at your track. We've seen guys win the national championship and come out here and not be able to run in the top 20. I think it's a race that, since it's on a track that's nationally known, the same track that, guys like Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Harry Gant, all of those guys have won here, both Earnhardts. So, I think that adds to it. And then I think the fact that, it pays so well. And a lot of guys will tell you they don't care about the check, they care about the clock. And so not many people have those clocks, and it gives everybody the opportunity to get one.
I was going to say the clock has got to be something people cherish.
I would say the clock and the bragging rights. Every driver I've ever spoken to that has won this race, I mean, they know they have those bragging rights because it's one of the hardest races to qualify for and win as far as the late model stocks.
Well, it's right here in the heart, too. I mean, we're literally right here in the heart. I mean, where else did it get started except right here on these runways?
Exactly.
Right, and this is the only track that's was on NASCAR's original schedule. So you got the history there, and I think the bragging rights mean a lot. There's a lot of guys who have been very, very, very good late model drivers, guys who have gone on to win Cup races. That Dale Earnhardt Jr. never made this race. He tried many times. Bubba Wallace never made this race. Tried many times. Denny Hamlin never won this race, and he came out here and finished 10th in the top 10 in his Cup Series debut. So it's a track that has a lot of history, but I think also that the level of competition is just that good. You know that you're going to get everybody's best when they come out here. There's guys that they've been preparing for years, for a full year since the race ended last year, just for this race, just to come back out. So, they put a lot of pride in it and a lot of time in it, and they want to come out and run well.
Well, Brooks, tell us, what else can we expect from this year's change?
I think the biggest thing is the unknowns. I talked to Philip Morris about it, and he said it may be an opportunity for a second groove to open up on the outside. I don't foresee that happening, but there may be a second groove, may open up some passing lanes. So, how are the cars going to handle when the sun goes down? Those are all the unknowns that nobody really knows what's going to happen, and so I think that's a big part of it. And then the fact that we don't have to worry about it getting dark, It's always been something that's been a little concerning for everybody when it gets down to the final laps. But, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
And I can tell you something that fans might have a question about, as far as it being under the lights. I can remember in the past, I've come several Sundays and watched this race. When you start heat racing and you finally get to the feature, you're talking, we get there around noon. We wouldn't leave till after 7 o'clock, which we intend to be there all day. But I'm thinking, what can fans expect as far as, this being a night race? Are they going to be expecting to be there until, midnight, 1 o'clock? I mean, what is the schedule going to be like? So that way our fans will know, hey, it's a race worth coming out to, and you'll still not be out here till, the wee hours of the morning.
Well, the heat races are going to start at 4.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, we just shifted everything down 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at the heat races starting about 4, ending about 7:30. 7:30,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting into pre-race, and then the race will start at 8, and we'll say it'll be done about 11 o'clock. That's
typical Saturday night.
Typical Saturday night. So, barring any unforeseen circumstances, we're planning on about 11 o'clock. But
nice.
We can't guarantee that.
Right.
So.
Well, I know I've had some other people I know that are planning on coming, and they're like, "Are we going to be leaving at like 3 in the morning?" I'm like, "No, I don't see that coming," because they're like, "Well, I kind of want to go, but I can't leave that late,"
No. The heat races will be run during the day.
That's
exactly.
good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And that's also good to know.
You don't want to miss those
absolutely.
that last chance heat.
Oh no, the last chance heat is almost as good as the feature.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best 25 laps in racing.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny though, watching that race. I actually was on my toes. I had a couple of drivers I was hoping that were going to make that race. They've tried for like the last 3 years. And one of them was just about to make it last year. Mm-hmm. He was in the top 7. He got raked in the second to last lap, and he got knocked out.
Well, I can tell you he's not the first one that happened.
Oh, absolutely not.
We talked about this. That is what I love. That is what I live for.
Oh,
just the horrible, just that, oh, look at his face. Oh, he looks a little butthurt over there. Somebody go get him an Orange Crush.
This race also, you never know what's going to happen, what's going to be the great storyline.
Exactly.
Last year, Billy Martin had tried for 25 years, to make the race.
Mm-hmm.
Had never made it. Mike Looney comes out, sits on the pole.
Yep.
The underfunded team, open trailer for half the season, never had enough money to run a full season for a track championship. Mm-hmm. He comes out and beats Lee Pulliam, who's as good as anybody ever to drive a late model.
Yeah.
So, you never know what the storyline's going to be, and I think that's always fun going into it.
Absolutely, because a lot of people think,
Peyton's somebody who you expect to be up front. Last year he was out of the race, within the first 20 laps. So it's just you just never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. I was actually going to ask you what your prediction is, or which driver you think is going to do well, but
this is a race
that's hard to predict.
No. We're putting him on the spot. Brooks, we love you, man, but we got to put you on the spot. What is your prediction?
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of racing this summer, and the guy who has consistently been good everywhere I've seen him, and it should be of no shock, is Philip Morris. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Philip Morris back in victory lane. Okay. Which, if he does, that would be his 4th win, which would tie Curtis Markham for the most late model wins at Martinsville ever.
If you had a dark horse, somebody said, you know what, it's a slight possibility, but the person who could win is.
I'm going to throw 2 names out there, and one's not going to sound like a dark horse.
Okay.
The first one I'll throw out there is a dark horse, and I'd say Ryan Repko. Ryan showed some speed last year. He ran up front for most of the race until he hit the pace car. I had to get that little dig in there because I had to drive that car home that night.
I was waiting.
I remember that. Oh my God.
But Ryan Repko is somebody he's been good this year. I think he's one to watch out for. That's a true dark horse. And then somebody else that maybe I could even say 2 names. One of them is Matt Bowling. Matt won the national championship last year, but this year he's only raced 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. So you never know what they've been working on to get up to this point. Mm-hmm. But he hadn't been in a car, so that could always be a little. There could be a little rust or something. So I'd never count Matt Bowling out. And then Peyton Sellers is a guy who, for whatever reason, has not won here. He's won everything there is to win in late model stock car racing except for this race. So
this might be it.
I would say those 2 are not necessarily dark horses, but people that haven't won that could. And then another driver who, again, I don't know if you consider him a dark horse, but he's been good all year, ran really well last year, is Bobby McCartney.
Right on.
So I think
That's a lot of names, man. Let me tell you what, that just adds a little bit more to the excitement of the Valley Star Credit Union 300 coming up.
And then, then you got the race within the race. You've got the Virginia Triple Crown. Mm-hmm. So that's another $10,000 that somebody's coming home with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for any driver that started the July 4th race, the Harley-Davidson 200 at South Boston,
mm-hmm.
the Hampton Heat at Langley, and in this race, it's the lowest average finish position. Well, I guess the highest average finish position, lowest
mm-hmm.
number, is $10,000 richer. So should that person also win the race, now you're looking at they're taking home $35,000. Wow. And if they're leading it halfway, they're taking home the $2,000 Clarence Steakhouse halfway bonus. Mm-hmm. And then if they sit on the pole, that's another $1,000. So somebody could win $38,000 that week, that night.
That's a nice little paycheck for one race.
Mm-hmm.
Go look at what Truck Series pays for a win.
Yeah,
yeah. That's some good money. So that's something to look out for as well. And this year, new for this year, we're going to put tent strips on the cars that are contending for the Triple Crown, so that the fans will be able to identify who those drivers are.
Nice. Just adds more and more to the excitement of the Valley Star Credit Union 300 coming up at Martinsville Speedway. Brooks, where can I get tickets? Give me info. Give me all the data, everything everybody needs to be able to find you.
You can get tickets. Stop by the track Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Saturdays, 9 to 3. One of our folks here will be happy to help you. You can call 877-RACE-TICKS or visit martinsvillespeedway.com. Tickets are available. We've got general admission camping available. Tickets are $30. General admission camping $25. Really looking forward to it. It's next Saturday night, September 23rd. Fans can come out this Thursday, get a sneak peek, find out if I'm right about the dark horses. And there's always one that nobody's expecting that comes out and runs
mm-hmm. really
well. So everybody's going to be talking about somebody on Thursday that kind of comes out of nowhere. And that person's usually another dark horse. So I'm hoping that we find out who that is, but at the same time, it'd be nice to go into the race and say, where'd that guy come from? Sort of like Mike Looney did last year. So really excited for it next weekend and hope everybody comes out and just has a good time at the racetrack.
This is Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com. That is Brooks Taylor, PR magnate of Martinsville Speedway. We're looking forward to the Valley Star Credit Union 300. Brooks, thank you so much for joining us this evening, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me and look forward to having you guys up and looking forward to some great racing. Also, let me get one more thing in.
Absolutely.
We got the Cup race coming up at the end of October. First day of the 500, Texas Roadhouse 200 for the Camping World Truck Series. Both of those are in the playoffs. Get tickets the same way, but come out for the late model race. You'll enjoy it. Come back in October.
Attention racers, race fans, and gearheads. If you're looking to buy, sell, or trade the stuff that stokes your engine, then check out RacingJunk.com. RacingJunk.com is the world's #1 online racing and performance classifieds, where you'll find what you need to rock your ride. Check us out at RacingJunk.com. Racing and performance classifieds built to go fast.
Welcome back to Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com. And, Ellen, I really enjoyed talking to Amber last time.
Absolutely. I hope she actually gets to compete in this race in the future. I think she could be a killer part of this race.
Well, it's great getting a chance to talk to the new up-and-coming talent because you never know where that's going to lead. You never know where they're going to land, how high they're going to get. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, we got another young up-and-comer coming up.
Absolutely. We've actually got a young driver who I've had the opportunity to watch race from the time he was, I guess Ryan was about 9 years old the first time I saw him race in a quarter midget, and he blew my mind. And he has since then moved up to limited late models and now competing in late models and has already won a couple of races and is going to attempt to qualify and hopefully not only qualify but do really well in this Martinsville race.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got Ryan Repko waiting on the line for us right now. Ryan, what's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot, just Martinsville preparations right now as far as racing goes. We test there this coming Thursday, so that'll be big. We we visit that track once a year. It's our biggest race of the year. They're expecting about 70 cars probably, and it'll be the first one under the lights.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell me a little bit about what prep you're doing, what you're expecting to see in the test, and then with this time being the first time ever under LED lights in Martinsville, how do you think that's going to affect things?
It should be pretty good for racing as far as that goes. I mean, most tracks, when you turn on the lights and the temperatures go down, most of the time the racing gets a little bit better because the track grips up more and the tires aren't as hot and slick. So I think it'll probably help the racing. We might even see two wide racing at Martinsville, which is something you don't really see. Also, I think it'll draw more fans and it'll draw more cars because of the hype with it being the first ever. So it should be probably the biggest one to date as far as that goes. And as far as preparation goes, you just want to bring the best car you've got. I mean, whatever your favorite car is that you've got, which for me is my white 14 car. That's the car we're taking to Martinsville because I feel like it handles the best. It's always been a lot freer than my other cars, which is something you want at Martinsville, to be able to get through hairpin corners and through the center there. So that's something you kind of fight. Most people fight tight in the center there, so, with it being such tight radius corners. So that'll be what we bring. That's my favorite car. And then as far as that goes, just replacing everything, making sure everything's ready to go, nothing's locked up, everything's just free and just ready to roll.
This dude is 17?
Yes.
Are you telling for real? I couldn't talk like this when I was 21. And this kid has got it together at 17. Ryan, wow.
You did have a little training, didn't you, Ryan?
A little bit. I've been doing interviews like this probably since I was 13 or 14.
Look at you getting prepped.
Oh, a little bit younger than that. Didn't you come on with Mike and I with Triad Sports coverage a little younger than that?
Yeah, but I wasn't very good then.
Oh, yes, you were. He even interviewed other drivers.
Yeah, we did some of that over at NCQMA back in the quarter midget days.
Yeah. So speaking of quarter midgets, you went from quarter midgets to limited late models, now late models. What is the biggest difference you're seeing? Obviously, it's a heavier stock car. Obviously, it's a whole new ball game. But, you know, how are you ready to go up to late models from quarter midget?
Quarter midgets, it's kind of an entry-level form of racing. I wouldn't say that it's very similar to the late model deal. Quarter midgets is more you kind of get to learn the rules and you get to kind of feel adjustments. And since there's shock absorbers on those, that's why I prefer those over go-karts, because you can set them up and you can feel stuff with them and make different adjustments and kind of learn the balance of the car and stuff like that. But it kind of teaches you the basics, you know, how to race around people. I mean, you can keep your momentum up by arcing out the corners and stuff like that. You kind of learn the basics. The late model is kind of where you really learn to race big cars. I mean, they're a lot bigger. Obviously, you've got a lot more power under you. Power steering, it feels very different. I mean, a quarter midget has no power steering, so it just feels more grounded and, like, I guess, responsive. The late model, you have to turn the wheel more because you've got power steering and the wheels are bigger, which that can be adjusted through steering boxes and different size steering wheels. But all around, the feel is very different. But a quarter midget, I feel like, is probably the best option as far as entry level and getting into racing and really learning the basics of how to race a car.
Now, Ryan, when you move from one model to another model or from one style to another style, usually there are influences, other drivers that kind of help us along with that decision. Who have been some of your biggest influences in the late model division, and what are your goals this race and in the future?
Well, right now, I'm teammates with Philip Morris, who's obviously a very accomplished late model driver. He's won 4 national titles. I think he's won this Martinsville race we have coming up 3 times.
Yep,
and,
twice, I think.
He's kind of he's took me under his wing and he's taught me a lot, just as far as how to race people and how he's always pushed me. You know, you got to be really aggressive on these starts and stuff like that. Back when I was first really getting used to it and all that, so he's been an influence. And also with my ARCA deal that I had going on this year, I ran one ARCA race up in Madison, Wisconsin this year, and
Wow.
I was working with Mason Mitchell Motorsports, and Mason took me under his wing and really taught me a lot in that ARCA race. And really that would be the goal, to be able to do more of those. But obviously there's a lot of behind-the-scenes business type stuff that has to happen in order for that to all come together. But my ultimate goal is to make it to the NASCAR Monster Cup Series, which has been my goal since I was 5 years old. So it would be awesome if we could make that happen. But right now we're kind of in the developing stages, you know.
You mean the Winston Cup? You talking about the Winston Cup?
He's too young to know it as the Winston Cup.
No, he's not. Look, as smart as this guy is, I bet he has better stats going back past Davey Allison on the Winston Cup than I got. I'm sorry, Ron. I didn't mean to make you jump ship right there, but every time I hear Monster Cup, it's a Winston Cup.
Yeah, who knows how long the Monster Cup is going to stay the Monster Cup Series. I can't even get used to calling it the Monster Cup Series. Every time I have to write it, I'm like, God, it takes me forever just to write the whole series name. It's just ridiculous. If we could go back to Winston Cup, that would be great. It's so much easier to write.
But, I mean, doing ARCA up in Wisconsin, man alive, that's beautiful.
Yeah, what pulled you into that one race?
Do what?
How did you get pulled in for that one race?
Well, I met Mason at GoPro Motorplex, and we kind of got to talking, and he basically a little later offered for me to come run one of his cars, and then we put together a deal that both sides were happy with, and we basically went up there. I think it took about probably 3 or 4 weeks to put the deal together, and it was an awesome race. I mean, I had a blast running it. The cars were a lot of fun. They just have a ton of power, and one thing I had to get used to was just how easy you have to be on restarts, because it's really easy to spin the tires. With the late model, I have about 400 horsepower, so you don't really have to worry about tire spin as much. It's pretty hard to do. You'd have to slam the throttle down to get the tires to spin. But that ARCA car, it's completely different, because you restart in second gear, and that's going to cause you to have higher RPMs, and it makes it a lot easier to spin tires. And the racing was a lot of fun. It's a lot harder to get through the corners with those cars, which I feel like late model stock has prepared me for, because they're built with perimeter style chassis, which are similar to which is what an ARCA car basically is. It's a perimeter car, but it's built different, as opposed to a straight rail late model or something of that nature. So they kind of handled similarly in the corners, but like there was a definite difference. And the racing was very good. I felt like everybody was pretty clean in ARCA, and it was a lot of fun. I had a blast. We had an oil line leak about I don't know how far into the race, but I ended up going a lap down, and I ended up probably passing more cars than anybody in that race, and eventually brought it home eighth.
Nice. So how do you feel that's going to prepare you moving forward for NASCAR? What are you looking forward to? When are you going to make the jump?
Well, I can't really tell you when. It's not that concrete. There's a lot of stuff that has to fall into place for that to happen. Obviously, that's the goal. That's what I want to do. But there's obviously a ton of kids out there that are doing exactly what I'm doing and trying to do exactly what I'm doing. So I can't tell you exactly when, but I feel like ARCA is a great stepping stone to get there, because the cars are built similarly. I mean, heck, even some people are running old Cup cars in ARCA. Yeah. And it's got a lot of power, 740 horsepower, and you're on radial tires, which is what the truck, Xfinity, and Cup cars are on. So I feel like it's a great stepping stone to be able to get used to these bigger cars in the ARCA series.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to put you on the spot of that, but let's get back to the race that's coming up. And speaking of great preparations and great influences.
Yeah, I had no idea that you were working with Philip Morris, and yes, he has won this race before in pretty amazing style. I was there the first year he won that race and was blown away. So tell me how Philip and his team possibly have influenced you and advised you for this race, because it's one of the most challenging late model races of the year, and it's one of the most difficult to, of course, qualify for, because it's not something where you just qualify and get a certain speed. You've got to go through all these heat races. You've got to survive everybody else around you. And granted, this year it's 70 drivers versus 100. They've had 125 show up to try to qualify for this race as well. So tell me how Philip has influenced you and advised you and how to prepare for this upcoming race.
Well, actually, I'm not running for Philip's team. Philip actually came over to the team I was already running for. Okay. But he hasn't really done too much to advise me, because this is actually my second go-around at this race. I ran it last year, too, and I ended up qualifying third, 200ths off of the pole last year. So obviously I didn't get too much sleep that night, because I felt like we had come so close to getting the pole. But I feel like we've got a good chance at that with this new car because it has the feeling. It has everything that I lacked last year. I was a little tight in the middle last year in 1 and 2, and I feel like this car will really be good for that. But yeah, like you said, survival. I mean, it's pretty hard to survive. I mean, even the heat races because you've got people going for position, and obviously it pays something to win a heat race. And obviously, each spot, I think I forget how many, but every spot, it's not just one spot in the race. It's multiple spots. It's like I think it's like 5 of them or something like that. Each spot is 5 spots in the starting field of the race, so it's huge. Just even to get one spot more on the final lap. So you'll have people just doing all sorts of stuff to try to get up there. And in the race, you just got to be careful to not get wrecked in the first probably 3/4 of the race. You probably spend about 150 laps just kind of riding and saving your tires, and then really jump and try to make it to the front with the last 50 and try to get up there and try to contend for it. I think I got up as high as 4th, and then I ended up, of all things, getting wrecked under caution.
I remember
which sent me
that.
to the back. Yeah, and then I think I restarted 23rd or something and got up to 9th or so with 25 laps to go. But I feel like we would have had a chance at that one last year had that not happened. So I really feel confident going into this race that my crew will give me a great car and we'll be able to hopefully duplicate the same result without getting wrecked under caution.
Yeah, and not only under caution, but just getting wrecked in general. I mean, I've seen so many drivers right there at the end look like they've got the race. Peyton Sellers, for instance, and yes, I did try to get him to come on and tell us about it, but I know he still seems a little bit unhappy about his
sore.
loss. A little sore about it.
Sore,
It's been a
hurt.
couple of years, but he's still a little sore about it. He was like 2 laps, I believe it was 2 laps away from winning the race. It may have been 5 total. I can't remember for sure, but I know it was within, like 5 to 7 laps to go. And I was on my way down to the pits, and all of a sudden I hear, and I come out there, and he's gone, and he's out. And I mean,
Tell him, Ryan, he needs to learn how to drive, don't he?
Oh, that was crushing because I know he had trouble with his engine all day and all this stuff, and it didn't even look like he was going to make the race. And so, it's heartbreaking to watch the drivers that are so close to a win just get it knocked out in that last 5 laps because you'll watch it and say, okay, this guy's, guy or girl got it in the last 10 laps, even if they're pretty much far ahead. I mean,
the evil in me loves that.
Yeah.
That's what I live for. I live for that moment of just horrible despair and just soul crushing horribleness to just like, oh, look at his face. Oh, I bet he's going to be butthurt for a good 6 months over this one. That's what I live for. Ryan, how many people you going to put in the wall? That's what I want to know.
Hopefully none.
It will
I'm just
tear up your
kidding.
car too.
I'm just kidding. Look, I don't want to cause any enemies out there. But I got $10 and a list of names I'm going to give you, okay?
All right.
Let's see if
Only
all
if
those
it's
drivers can even
convenient.
make the race.
That's right. Well, Ryan, tell us a little bit. What do you think about racing on the paperclip?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's a really fast racetrack for us late model stock guys because it's got a lot. As far as the Cup Series, it's not very fast because they go to tracks like Daytona that have really long straightaways and really wide corners. But our tracks are obviously a lot smaller than that. So we run on short tracks every weekend with the late model stocks. And for Martinsville, it's actually got longer straightaways than most of the tracks we run at. And the corners are still pretty tight, but not as tight as for a Cup car that's heavier. So it's actually one of our fastest racetracks. And I had a blast racing it last year. I feel like it's probably one of the raciest tracks we go to. And, I mean, sometimes you can make the top work, but it's a lot harder to run up there than it is on the bottom.
Well, man, we're looking forward to seeing you at the Valley Star Credit Union 300 Martinsville Speedway coming up. And, Ryan, I got to put you on the spot, man. You're here. We're behind the wheel on RacingJunk.com. Give me a prediction. How are you going to do?
I'm gonna lead all the practices, qualify on the pole, and lead every lap of the race.
That's
There you
what I'm
go.
talking
That's
about.
what I'm
Get it,
talking
baby.
about.
17-year-old Ryan Repko. Ryan, do you have Facebook, website, Instagram, all that good stuff?
All of it. I've got a Facebook page that's just if you put the slash and then Ryan Repko Racing. It'll take you right to it. And the Facebook.com/Ryan Repko Racing. It'll take you right to it. My Twitter handle is at Ryan_Repko14. And my Instagram is at Ryan Repko.
Man, I tell you what, we are so excited about the young up-and-coming talent in racing right now. You know, that's what Behind the Wheel is all about. And, Ryan, we wish you the best of luck, man. Keep in touch with us. Let us know how things go. Looking forward to seeing how high you get in this sport that we all love.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you, buddy. Wow, what a kid.
Yeah, he's really
17 years old, and
First time I met him, he was 9.
First time you met him, he was how old?
He was like 9 or 10 years old, and
That's
he
what my
blew me
son
away. Yeah, and
He doesn't talk halfway like that.
No, I was working with another website, and we had him on an internet radio show we were doing at the time, and most of these kids could barely talk. It was very much yes, no, looking at me with a red face, have no idea what to say. He was well outspoken. He really was. I mean, he had a little nerves to him and whatever,
Right.
and didn't know exactly if he said the right thing or,
Right.
that kind of thing. But I have watched him race since he was 9 or 10 years old, running quarter midgets. We actually went out to the track. We were so impressed with how he did and his presence in front of all these younger kids that we actually had him come on and lead some of the shows himself.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd jump off, say it's all you.
You know what? That's the thing that gets me about, and it spans all sports, but racing especially, because it's all about the driver and the crew. The guys that are there for just fluff, the ones that are trained to speak and speak well and who can eloquate well,
Right.
versus the ones that are trained to speak well but also know their cars, know their tracks, know what makes it tick and what makes it go fast, what makes it not go fast. Those are the ones that are more successful.
Exactly. And
This kid right here.
Yeah, he knows it. I mean, he's actually had a lot of good influences from his dad, but also just from some of these older drivers who have actually been very impressed with him. He actually did some stuff with a limited late model driver for a little while, and he was impressed with how quickly he was picking everything up. The first time I knew that he was giving up his quarter midget racing and going to a late model, I wasn't sure how he would do. I've seen kids do okay, but not great. He's actually blown my mind at how well he has done. I mean, granted, he hasn't gone out there and won every race, but he's held his own, and he's done top 10 several times in several different tracks, including Caraway. So, it's not an easy feat to do. And, his family doesn't have a lot of money. His race team doesn't have a lot of money. He's not running for a big-time team. He's running for his own family.
Earning it.
Yeah, he is literally earning it, and they're running
That's
on,
the ones you respect.
Yeah, and he is running on a shoestring, so you don't see that too often, even in the late model series sometimes, even when you come to Martinsville. There's many times I've come to Martinsville. He mentioned Philip Morris. Philip Morris came with money when he won.
Yeah.
The first year he won, and actually I apologize, he did win 3 times. I was not there for the first time. I was there for the second time. But, he came in, and there were lots of rumors on the track that the reason he won is because he had money. And a lot of the other drivers were complaining that his car was better because he had the money. Yeah. And not too many drivers that come to this race really do have a lot of money. A lot of them are running on shoestring. They are your regular late models. I was there one year when a Virginia native had tried several times to win this race, tried to qualify 2 or 3 times, didn't qualify, finally got in the race, didn't do too well the first couple of years, finally won that year. And, I mean, he was spending every bit of money he pretty much had.
Right.
His family business was putting in a whole lot of money just trying to get him just to this race.
These are the ones that not only you respect and you want to root to win, but these are the ones that people need to follow and they need to support.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, this kid's going to be great. So hopefully you'll be able to track and keep up with Ryan Repko. Please go check him out on his social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow him. Wish the kid well. I mean, these are the type of athletes we need to progress through the ranks of all professional sports, especially racing.
And be sure to follow us on Twitter at Racing Junk on the 23rd of September, while we'll be live at the Valley Star 300. We'll be telling you all the action as it goes on. And if you can't be there, make sure you just follow us because it's going to be a really cool event.
Wow. You talk about a great episode.
I know, right? I mean, I'm so psyched for this race. I wish it wasn't next week. I wish it was this week, but oh well.
Well, you got to take some time. And it is the Valley Star Credit Union 300 coming up on the 23rd, Martinsville Speedway.
It's going to be an amazing night. If you didn't already hear Brooks tell you, the action will kick off at 4 p.m. with the first heat race, and then the feature race will take place at 8 o'clock. So it's just like your typical Saturday night of racing, but this is going to be the best Saturday night you could spend.
That is Ellen Richardson. I am Chris Young. Thank you so much for listening to Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com. We also want to thank our guests for taking the time out of their busy schedule to tell us about the upcoming Valley Star 300. And I want you to stay tuned each month as we introduce you to another part of the sport that we all love right here on Behind the Wheel on RacingJunk.com.